Codex Exaltum is the latest expansion that's just been released by Trollord Games for Castles and Crusades, and this one is different to Codex Infernum, which I recently reviewed and released. I'll put a link to it at the end of the video, because in that one, you, as a games master, you get to sort of get all the stats and know how to run demons and devils in this world. But this one has got me a little bit more intrigued because it's not very often, as a games master, you get to play with celestials or angels and the good. And I'm going to use good in bunny ears inverted commas because there is good and there is no will good, which this book is heavily going to lean into. It's going to show you, it's going to have all the stat blocks and things like that. But more than that, it's going to have rules for enchaining them, for if they want to possess your soul, specific sort of background rules into sort of heaven, where they came from, the war that's going on. Rather interestingly, the fallen angels, not the poison song, but yeah, and can they ever reclaim and get back? So sadly, no links for TTRPG or for the Castle Trollord Games website, because at this moment in time it is not available while I'm recording it. I have been sent a copy of this by Grace at Trollord Games, so thank you for the copy. I haven't been asked to review it, and no money has been sort of sent to me, and I haven't been paid. So I am doing this because, wow, I love demons and devils, and I've got a fondness for angels a little bit more. And yes, this does cover all of the archangels as well. So let's just get straight into the book. So here we've got the front cover. And so you can see it's some archangel there with a nice giant sword. This comes in at 130 pages, which I think is slightly shorter than Infernum, and it's been written by Jason Vey with contributions here by Stephen and Davis Chenault. And cover art and variety of other editors and stuff is all in these details in here. So this is the latest release, so it is for effectively the reforged edition of Castles and Crusades, and we've got their emblem here. So as always, I'm going to get into the contents. It's nicely hyperlinked. It's going to take you through Angels Are Not Your Friends, the opening of the book. They're not. They may be good, but maybe they're too good, and it will sort of explain that. And then it will talk about the backgrounds, where they come from, the sort of planes that they live on, how you actually interact them in Aird, which is their campaign setting for the sort of Celestials and Infernums. It's then going to take you through fallen angels, the wars that goes on, details on possessions, soul, which is a very good, interesting way of dealing with souls, exorcism, sorcerers, and their obsession for trying to get and capture, in the nicest way, celestials. 2 names, and then we are getting into a huge monster manual. And as I always say with these books, I love monster manuals. I just love reading stats, background, lore on creatures, and especially when they're like this, where everything has got an individual piece of art, because you don't have to imagine what they look like. It's all covered in here for you. Now, opening the book, it's going to talk about angels are not your friends. And the main reason for that is, well, angels have duty and they don't have free will, where humans, we do. It's one of the reasons why, if you do get into reading the Bible and stuff, it's one of the reasons why the angels don't really like humans. They're very jealous of our free will, because celestials not sign up, but they are sort of bound by a higher purpose or someone higher than them that will give them rules and regulations, where humans, we don't get any of that. So yeah, it's argued that we sort of they become jealous because we are the gifted, truly, because we do get free will. Fields of Stone is their realm, and we'll come to that in a second. But to say what lies herein, it does say that you should basically, obviously, you're going to need the player's guide to run all the rules, but it heavily implies that you should go and get castles and crusades and monsters and treasures, because it will help you with handling combat with monsters, creating monsters, and defining. I should have said, I think I maybe implied it, but if you are a player, this really isn't a book for you. This is a Games Masters or Castles Keepers book exclusively. I don't think you're going to get a huge amount of spoilers unless you specifically sit and read all the stat blocks for all the creatures. But there are a few things on, like the unchaining stuff, that you probably shouldn't read in here. So, if you're a player and you have no intention of being a Games Master, you may want to sort of move along. Also, thinking about it, because this is a D20 system, I think you could easily convert this to any OSR, even sort of most of the Dungeons and Dragons editions, possibly even 4th if you're just a little bit creative. So in Fullness of Creation talks about where angels come from, and this does it in a very clever way, because angels, or the Celestials, as I should refer to them in this book, come from Pleroma, okay, which is a realm that nobody remembers what happened there. Nobody knows really how to get there, and if they ever do get back, they can't describe it. You don't need to worry about it, and that's the great thing about these sort of books, where if players ask, angels don't, well, Celestials don't remember. But their realm is the Stonefields realm, and this is different to the Infernal realms, because the Infernal realms, you know, like Hal and stuff, are brutal, evil. But all Celestials are not necessarily paragons of goodness. Some of them are neutral, some of them are neutral in law, some of them can actually be chaotic, and occasionally Celestials can be evil without falling. We'll come on to that in a little bit. But the Stone Realms in this book is going to focus on 5 sort of demi-realms here. We've got the Elysian Fields, the Fields of Reem, 7 Realms, Valhalla, and Arcadia. If you want more information on here, you can go and grab yourself the Codex of Planes here. But Arcadia is the first one, and this is sort of split into 4 areas. It's a giant forestry area, and up north it's sort of snow and that sort of world. And the way to think of these demi-realms, they're kind of very much heavens. And the people that are going to go here are so the peaceful dead. So they've had a peaceful life. They've led a relatively good life. Well, we should say that about all the realms, because if you've led a evil or selfish life, then you're not coming here. You're going pretty much where the demons and the devils are. We've then got the Elysian Fields, which is, it's basically the road for the really good people that have come, people that have been right and honest and just throughout their life. We've then got the Aru Fields, which is the Field of Reeds, which is, well, it's the realm of Osiris, so it's very much Egyptian based. And this is probably the harshest of all the realms, because you've got certain challenges or trials to get in to sort of stay there. We then have the 7 realms, which is the greatest in breadth for all those planes located in the fields. And those spirits who come into the heavens are good, and they have brought no harm without need and left no want unattended. Then finally, Valhalla, which probably shouldn't need any introductions. You've got 2 halls, and this is for all your warriors and sort of people that have fought and had, you know, well, I think we pretty much know how you get into Valhalla. Just saying there, there's, you know, there's no magic users, and bards and stuff are kind of allowed, because you got to leave that honourable death and then slain in combat. A little bit of details here about some other sort of minor realms in there, but you're going to want to pick up the Codex of Realms to find out the full details. The rest of this, before we actually get into the attributes and sort of things going on with actual Celestials, is going to talk about Inard, which is the world that Castles and Crusades is sort of based in. I covered this in Codex Infernum, which is the background between the Horn Gods that sort of turned up there. I'm going to sort of brief this because I'm going to mispronounce an awful lot of things, but effectively the Celestials then came after the Horn Gods had sort of pulled all the demons and devils in, and war has erupted and been going on for a long time. Some of the most powerful of the Celestials are the Runed Lords here. There are 4 of them named. They don't have stats because you can't kill them. There are some Demi-Lords that we're going to get the stats for later. But the main Rune Lords, which are, oh no, why am I going to do this? Lord Iratum, I think Lady Mesha, Lord Sulahub, and Lady Athuma, I say they normally appear as humans, and there's a little bit of detail in there, but they are immortal and cannot be killed. And because of that, you don't get the stats in there. But a war between Celestials and the Infernals has been going on for a very long time. In essence, when Celestials see Infernals, they're going to pretty much stop what they're doing and go and attack. And it talks here about, you know, whenever they fight, they sort of lay waste, and, you know, the battles are devastating. Kind of reminds me, I can't remember which one of the Marvel films is, where Captain America, no, I think it's Hulk, isn't it, is fighting Iron Man in his Hulkbuster costume. They're just sort of flattening everything, and I think it's is it Superman versus Batman, whichever one. You just kind of get this feeling that that's the sort of thing they are, because in reality, Infernals and Celestials, they don't really care about the world of men and what's going on. They've got their higher purposes, and we've got details here that when Celestials fall. I said some Celestials can become evil, and they don't necessarily fall if they do. But when they do fall, they have no memory of their purpose and what they were before they actually fell. They remember falling, and they remember the sort of punishment that they're going to take. And a lot of them become bitter, but not necessarily fully evil. They can turn to evil, and when they do, obviously they're going to be sort of dark. Celestials are pretty powerful. Celestials in general are powerful, but obviously once they turn and they have all the horrible views of the world, they can be a very good plot device. You've got to be thinking that as you go through. Can redeem? Very rarely they do redeem. But because of that, we will have internal wars across Celestials. And I really like the fact that, you know, the good and neutral may fight, and the law and the chaos may fight, and good and evil are going to fight. However, once they see an Infernal, they're all just going to stop. And they're going that way to attack the Infernal. It's a great idea. And they're just going to sort of, you know, lay waste to everything to get to that Infernal and kind of take them out as quick and fast as they can. And then I have this image in my head of them, you know, like they stop fighting, they realise they're alive, and then they're going to turn on each other and then just go for it, which is cool. Celestials and Power talks about not all Celestials are going to have stats and attributes, because there are hundreds and thousands of Celestials in here. So there are just a few. I'd say there's a few. There's a lot in here. But if you want more, you can make up your own. Then get into the classifications of Celestials. So be they Guardians and Guides, Messengers, which or finally Warriors. It does actually, I'll talk about it briefly here. There is a bit that talks about, you think about Lord of the Rings with Gandalf. So Celestials don't really interfere in humans and human nature, because why would they? They've got their own purposes, they've got their own calling. Occasionally they are sent down to help, be that as messengers or guides, or really occasionally as warriors. But yeah, treat them, if you're going to be running them, as that sort of way. And if you want to involve them, you've got 3 different ideas in here that to run them. So one is you can use them as a background material. So for example, they're just, you know, you've got to go and gather the information about them to go and find out. Alternatively, you could have them as the goal of the adventure, sort of try and track them down, help them, maybe even kill a fallen Celestial. And then finally, you just may have them as a quest giver or a deliverer of warning and prophecies. I like the idea of having the second one. I think fallen angel, even actually, you wouldn't even need to worry about a fallen angel. You know, a full-on good angel is going to have completely different motivations and feelings to humans. So you could actually run. You might not want to run with Archangel Michael or someone like those, because, you know, being as the Archangel of War, he is quite powerful. And we're going to look at his stats a little bit. Celestials do have their own hierarchy, and that is called choirs. And they'll go from the 1st to 9th choir. Then finally, sat on the throne are the Archangels. I think there's 14 Archangels in here. But all of the Celestials are going to have some common traits. They're going to have Celestial Fire, burning stuff, Celestial Song. Their voice is going to be hard for humans to listen to. Charismatic Assault. They change the save from anything to using charisma. Does give an example in here that, so if you're going to cast a fireball at them, normally you dexterity to get out of the way. Not this time. It's going to use charisma. It's going to mess with a lot of people. They are immortal. They're going to do additional damage through banes, through demons and devils. Variety of immunities. They've got corporeal forms, so obviously they're going to come down and become humans. They can possess people if they want to. They're going to take half damage from acid and a few other things. They've got supernatural damage, telepathy, transference, so they can hand on some of their powers to other people. They are vulnerable to diabolic and demon creatures. And they may, if that's not powerful enough, you could give them the ability to cast some spells. Like the Codex Infernum, we're now going to get into the section about the soul, and I love what it does here. So it talks about the soul. It basically separates the soul from the character. And you can possess, you can steal souls, you can directly damage it through spells or other abilities. You can drain the souls out, or you can trap it. And the soul is going to heal. But how many hit points has the soul got? It's equal to physical hit points. And the AC of the soul is equal to the level of the creature plus their charisma bonus, because charisma is most important here. Mental becomes prime. Talked about this in Infernum, and I do like the fact that if you do manage to separate the soul from the body, you don't die. You just lose some 3 points of charisma and wisdom, and you're at -1 on a tribute check. So yeah, you just become a little bit less charming. And obviously, if you do destroy the soul, it can be restored from the resurrection spell here. And just like from possession point of view, just like demons and devils, some celestials may attempt to possess living creatures, and once they're possessed, obviously you're going to lose your ability. Talks about the game changing things, and if you want to exercise them out, so get rid of them so you can actually gain your body back, you can either turn them, you can slay the host. Good luck with that one, depending on how powerful the Celestia is. And then we're going to talk about the rules for exorcism. Simplified rules, don't use the simplified rules, and advanced rules. Simplified rules, in essence, are it's an extended bunch of tests that you're going to try and do to exorcise the soul out. Don't worry about the mechanics. That's, I think, this video will go too long if I get into the mechanics of all these things. But the advanced one, very similar, other than the fact that if you fail a check, you can carry on going, but you're going to take a d4 damage. If you pass a check, they're going to take damage. So it's going to make it a little bit more deadly and a little bit more interesting. Now, sorcerers down here are a little bit obsessed with celestials because they hold lots of power and lots of knowledge. So sorcerers are going to try and bind them to learn and gain their knowledge. And one of the most important ways, well, the very first thing you need to do is learn the true name of the celestial. And for example, most celestials don't go by their true name. So it talks about here, so Archangel Michael, for example, that's his Abrahamic name. That's not actually his real name. So there are ways in games mechanic, and as a castle keeper you're going to have to come up with specific ways of finding out. But once they do find out the true name, you can enchain them, which effectively binding them, and you're going to have to kind of hold that every round, because once they're enchained they're going to look to get out. But it does say, because obviously they're not going to damage you, what they're going to do is try and get other people to help through messing around with your pride or your feelings and thoughts to try and do it. They're unlikely to actually ask anyone else specifically for help because, signs of weakness. From here on in, we are now going to look at the characteristics of all the celestials in here, and we are going to be so we've got 100 pages to go, and that's just going to be stats and stat blocks and incredible art. But when we're actually looking at the characteristics, so you've got the name and the type that they are, whether aberration, animal, beast, construct, dragon, elemental, extraplanar, fey, giant, human, magical beast, monstrous human, and a few others in there. I'll stop reading the rest out. And they're going to have some sort of game effects depending on what they are. And then we've got the siege element of it, which is the level. And then we've got the armor class, the amount of hit points, spell resistance. Forgot about spell resistance. That's very, I think it was AD&D. It might have been in 3rd edition. But if it's a 10, when you go to cast a spell on them, you've got to roll above that, or the spell just automatically fails, which I think is really cool. Saves are divided into physical P, mental M, M and P both, or N none, how far they can move. If you're going to play with sanity, that's the sort of sanity damage you're going to take by interacting with them, the amount of attacks they're going to get, the XP you're going to get for killing them. Any sort of additional abilities and special attacks they have is then going to be listed. Remember, they'll have all the celestial stuff, won't be in the stat blocks. The additional stuff should be in here, as well as immunities, vulnerabilities, and different traits and regeneration. Ecology will detail with the number of them, and that normally will be, you can reflect that with a die. So look here, so we've got 2 to 12, so you can roll pretty much 2d6, and that will give you the random amount of numbers that you're going to get in there. And then talk about the size of them, how intelligent they are, disposition, which is, the alignment means they are, good, evil, chaotic, whatever it may be, the biome they are, the climate they sort of around it, and then the sort of treasure you're going to get. So what I'm not going to do is really spoil any of this, because I think it's important that, well, there's going to be players hanging around as well that do like to watch these. Obviously you could pause the page, but we've got an initial bit here just on the archangels, which tend to go from level 20 to 40, just to give you an idea. And then we're going to go through sort of Azrael in here, Kamal, Angel Gabriel, all the way through. We're going to have a quick look at, not a Metron, we're going to look at Archangel Michael, who's here, who's just going to let you know he's at level 35, 38 AC, spell resistance 19, and then I'm going to stop because, but I say the artwork for each of these archangels is absolutely amazing. Let's just quickly stop at Zedekiel here. So he's only level 25 with 35 AC, but say we've got artwork here, then you've got a description in there, and then finally all of the abilities. Should have mentioned this, so you can run this book, say you could run this for any D20 base system quite easily. I think you could even convert this very easily to Shadow Dark if you needed to. But the ends of each of the stat blocks, we've got this where we go Inard here, which is then more specifically tied into the Castles and Crusades world. So every single creature in here is going to have their. So some of them are extra planar, and then we've got a few as we go through will be part of the choir. And it will say, I'm trying to find one now. It's always the way when I do these videos, because I could spend so long on this video just looking at them, but I'm going to find one and that is going to say, here we go, 6th choir here. Hashmalim, I think that says. So we're going to get 1 to 8 of these, level 10. So we've got the art and the description in here. So we've got all the abilities. This is the additional stuff that they're going to get in here. So from what I've seen, they're either extra planar, like this hare folk here, or they're going to have the choir that they're specifically in. Here we go. Found another one, and another one on the choirs as well. So, but each of the choirs you kind of think of as a race because there are multiples of them. So we've just gone past Malachim there. So that means we're going to have the Seraphim coming up at some stage. I think Seraphim is second. We've got one of the Rune Lords, but this isn't the actual Rune Lords because, as you can see, level 16, because the Rune Lords don't have stats in here. So we've got to say these are minor Rune Lords in here. Let's just stop here at the Seraphim here. So it's the 5th choir. And we'll just have a little bit here. So the Seraphims are beings of pure magic with 6 wings, 2 of which cover their face, 2 of which cover their feet, and 2 of which are constantly beaten. Because obviously they've got extra wings. It's going to help increase their AC as well in here. So like this, I said, I know I sort of talked about Infernum being, because demons and devils are good. They are the natural enemy of players. But putting them against things like this is going to be very, very different. So we've got here this tusk creature, which is, what's that 6-limbed beast. Yeah, so we've got 2 legs and 4 arms. It's just, demons and devils they're common. Against celestials, this thing here, they're going to automatically think this wasting wolf is evil, but it's not. It's completely neutral. Put it up against them. Let the players see how they interact with it. Because, Celestials aren't going to appreciate humans just attacking them for whatever. Because I know some of my players will be easily tempted into doing things against Celestials. But say, do you need both books? Yes. Which one's my favourite? This one is actually my favourite. I say Demons and Devils, commonplace. I've been running games with Demons and Devils for years, but I'm not a religious person, but I've always found the sort of Angels War. I don't know what Bible, what chapter it's called. Always incredibly interesting. I say, like Archangel Michael throwing Lucifer out of heaven, all of that, and like the angel wars and stuff that caused the devils to happen. And it's just interesting. And so what I like is the amount of lore that we've got in here, and say you can really just twist the game on its head by giving the unexpected. I like that. So the book talks about 3 different options where you can just sort of have them as the main crux of the adventure, or the hunt down, or the guide. I kind of want them to be hunting down what possibly they think is a good celestial, to go and find out that he's not. Or, even better, now it's just come in my head, they think he's evil, then they find out he's good. And there's different motivations, because the weird thing about alignments is, and I talk about this quite a lot on different videos, most people that are evil just tend to be slightly more selfish. And they don't always think of themselves as evil. There's no one wakes up. Well, they do, but I think majority of people that may be evil don't think of themselves that way. And it very much talks about this an awful lot in the book, because say they don't have free will. They are bound by a higher being and a higher purpose, which makes them inevitably very jealous, very bitter of what's going on. So when they see people with free will just abusing it, it makes for very good and interesting plots, campaigns, even one-shots. So I'm going to leave it there. Both of these I suggest you go and buy. So once they are available, I will put links for the PDFs down into the video. So if you are going to consider grabbing these, either get them direct from Troll Lord Games, or if you're here in the UK, I think GMS will have physical copies. If not, obviously pick up the PDF through my link. But if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.